When we started Richard's project car, it was pretty much a run-of-the-mill Jetta VR6 in pretty good shape. But by now, it's starting to become the kind of vehicle that he always imagined it could be. And today, we're going to work on suspension. So we've got about 140,000 kilometers on this car, and some of the things that you would expect to be wrong are wrong. The tops of the strut bearings need replacing. We thought, since we're going to do that, let's see if we can make a suspension upgrade. Well, our friends at JRP highly recommend the teen suspension upgrade. Now, this is a coil-over system, which would be considered relatively exotic, but it does the job, and that's what we're looking for. We want to lower the ride height a little bit, and we're going to make the suspension adjustable so that Richard can have it one way in the wintertime, soft, a little bit sloppy, and a little bit stiffer in the summertime. Naturally, that's going to go with a sway bar as well. Now, we're going to put in a rear sway bar from New Speed. Now, the whole idea of putting just a rear sway bar in is to keep this car safer on the road. If you go both ways, or just put in a front sway bar, the car tends to get loose, and that's a condition that you definitely don't want in the city. You might be thinking about the track. Well, Richard's got a lot of options when it comes to track cars. Generally, when we go to the test track, we've got several $100,000 worth of cars. There's no real reason for him to want to take this car on the track, but we're going to set it up as if he could.
Well, I certainly appreciate the fact that you did bring this to us. I know that it's something that these guys are completely capable of doing. A lot of these accessories are designed to be, bolt-on. Sometimes they're things that you can do in your driveway, but we're looking at a performance suspension system and installing, the bigger sway bar. These things are going to, take this older vehicle that's a little tired, make it tight, make it right. It's going to be comparable to something that would cost you considerably more money to buy, and you're going to build it, which makes it your own, makes it a little unique. And for me, that's the way to, that's the way to go. We've mentioned it a couple of times. It is an older vehicle. It is his daily driver. It is something that you can use all year long. When you consider the fact that it is 10 years old and it's got a little over 140,000 kilometers on it, you know what, a coil-over is a perfect way to go for two reasons. Number one, it's the complete replacement part. So you're replacing that strut, that spring, they've got the mileage on them, they've got the time on them, but you're giving yourself that flexibility. So, come May or June, it's nice weather out, you want to put your nicer wheels and tires on it, a few rotations of the adjustment sleeve, and you can drop that car down, get the stance right, get the look right, and then come fall again, simple adjustment, not too much time spent on it, get your winter tires and rims back on it, you can run this thing all year long. So it's something that just is practical, but something that you can enjoy at the same time.
We're doing a spring and shock conversion here, including coil-over front suspension on the Jetta. Coil-over springs and shocks are race pieces. They're components that have been bred in the racing environment for tunability, to control corner weights, to control the angle of the vehicle, to start answering some of the questions the driver's looking for in the car. Adapted for the street, maybe a little bit overkill, but it does give us adjustability for rural environments, for Canadian winters, for all sorts of things. Speaking of Canadian winters, with a coil-over system like this, you've got really highly engineered components that aren't meant to see salt and snow and all of the crud that we throw at them. Taking care of the threaded portion of the body of the shock, the adjustability for the coilovers is really important.
The stock suspension after 80,000, they recommend to change it because the oil starts to leak out, it gets air in it, and it starts to sag. Obviously the car starts to look lowered, but the feel you're getting in the steering wheel and the wear on your tires obviously is improper. So when you go to the coilover kit, now you're gonna end up, it's racing engineered, so it's lightweight too. You're lightening the whole factor of the vehicle, you know what I mean? It's adjustable. You can go up and down. Summertime, you can have summertime ride. Wintertime, you have your wintertime ride, you know what I mean? Where you can lift it back up.
Pretty heavy duty rear anti-roll bar going on this car. A lot of people call them anti-sway bars. That's the common term. It's really a spring that's designed to help keep the car flat. The one we're putting on the Jetta today is pretty beefy. The whole idea, keep the car from leaning too much in turns, gives you more feel, keeps all four wheels on the ground. A heavy rear bar is going to give them a little more push, a little more tendency towards understeer, but that's a safe thing. At least that way you get to see the thing you're going to hit as opposed to backing into it.
Obviously, like you'd mentioned, the bushings and the end links for the front, just replace them again, those worn, tired old parts. They are rubber, they're in a harsh environment under the vehicle. Going with the rear sway bar, does promote the understeer, not oversteer, which is very important. I mean, unless somebody's got a lot of race experience, they're ready to handle it, oversteer is dangerous. Oversteer basically ends up being sideways very quickly. It's dangerous. It's not something that, you know, if it's a wet day and you don't have the best set of tires on, it can become a problem. So going with the rear sway bar should make the car a little bit more drivable for somebody who, you know, isn't used to that extra little bit of power, that extra bit of punch that we're adding to the vehicle, changing the handling characteristics. We want the car to be fun, but we want it to be predictable and safe at the same time.
You want to keep things consistent. Bushings deteriorate over time. You want to look at all your links, all the bushings, all the mounts. Every component of the suspension system adds to the spring effect, or hopefully controls the spring effect of all the suspension components. If you all of a sudden have worn bushings at one end of the car and brand new at the other end of the car, you can dramatically affect the feel of the car and how it handles.
Each and every time that you adjust that vehicle, you change that ride height, you really should have an alignment done. You want to make sure that you're going to extend the life of your tires, you're going to get the full benefit out of that package. So when the car is higher up in the wintertime, you got your expensive winter tires on it, you're looking after that investment, the car is handling and doing what it's supposed to do. Come summertime, you drop it back down again, you put your other wheels on it, same result. You want that car to cut corners the way it does, you want to go straight the way it does. Really strongly recommend that you do an alignment on it. Obviously, you're changing the geometry of the vehicle every time you move those collars, so you want to make sure that everything is doing what it's supposed to so that your time and your money were well invested.